All right. All right, just quickly, you know the routine. We want to know why we're studying end times. This is what we finished last time. Why are we studying end times? You should know it like from the top of your head, and you can just come out. Why are we studying end times? Because we are blessed to do so. Good. We are commanded by God to study end times. We need to know what is coming for the encouragement and for the hope that is to come. What does this mean? What does it look like? Well, how is it when I study end times, it would help me to be prepared? Okay. How does it help me? Let's think about it before we answer. Just take a deep breath and think, how is it when I study end times, it helps me to be prepared for what is to come? I mean, Jesus is coming anyway, isn't he? Whether I know, it's pre-mill view or a-mill view, anyway, he's coming. So what's the point that we study end times? Rewards. There are future rewards that is coming down. And it helps me be prepared. What else? How is it by studying end times helps me to be prepared? Don't be scared, brother. You can answer too.
It helps you with the hope.
Hey?
It helps you with your hope and your encouragement to continue on until those days. Like it helps you to really have it's your goal, like there's a goal in there, and it helps us to, go towards that goal with all encouragement because this world is so fallen.
Yeah. Does this make sense? So it gives me the right perspective in relation to time. We were just talking just earlier on during prayer time that, we're going through severe, some of us are going through very, very heavy trials. Now stay with me. If I don't study about end times and I'm just thinking about here and now, and then all of a sudden I get that phone call from the doctor. Oh no, what am I going to do? What? Issue with my body or issues with a loved one's body, and it's escalating and it's getting from bad to worse. What am I going to do? And if my mind is focused on the present time, that trial becomes a mega huge Mount Everest. I can't climb it. And I find myself crushed beneath the foundation of that trial. But if I consciously make an effort and come over here and come to Tuesday night studies or study end times and open a book, and I intentionally want to fill my mind with what is to come, and I realize, wait a second, there is a whole new life when Jesus comes back, a whole new life. It gives me the right perspective when I see a trial that I have to face. Even if it's a massive trial, that's okay. I'm only here for a short time. In fact, the heavier the trial, the more I would long for the day when Jesus comes back, Why? Because my mind is filled with the end times, with the life that Jesus is going to bring about when he comes back on earth. It gives me the right perspective. Right? I can go on for a long time, but we don't have much time. We need to move on. I need to finish the 1,000 years. So, all right, we have come to a point where we spoke about, okay, what is going on during this 1,000 years. We want to cast our eyes, to look through the window of the scripture into what is to come. And we want to know how we're going to live that life. Anybody wants to share what we spoke about so far in the last 2 sessions?
This is the time that the kingdom of Jesus is established.
Yes.
And that there is no freedom of religion. There is only one religion.
Yeah.
And that the temple will be built.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what we spoke about, all right? So when someone dies by the age of 100, what are we going to think? He must be cursed. What's wrong with this guy? What has he done? He died like a baby in his young age. He hasn't flowered yet. Okay, so there is health, there is prosperity, there is everything that our body is craving for. It's going to be such a blessed time. Then we spoke about, okay, more specifically, the temple. A temple will be established, and there are many chapters dedicated for that, very specific measurements for a temple to be established. And where is that temple going to be established? Mount Zion, okay? So it will be elevated above all other mountains, and on that mountain, a new temple will be rebuilt. So it's certainly not that temple that they are trying to build right now. It's a different temple in a whole different landscape. Because there will be elevation at that time. And we spoke about, and then I thought, man, you know what? I need to just bring it here because we had a few questions about it. That there is a reinstitution of certain rituals, different way of thinking about them, but similar rituals. So it says here, for example, in Ezekiel 45, in the first month, on the 14th day of the month, you shall, that's in the future, have the Passover, a feast of 7 days, unleavened bread shall be eaten. On that day, the prince shall provide for himself and all the people of the land a bull for a sin offering. And you can go on and on and on. So that's Ezekiel 45. It tells us there will be a Passover feast. There's another place where we read before, if you recall, where there's going to be a feast of the booths. And if people do not attend it, what would happen? God will punish this nation by making sure he would withhold rain. And Egypt is used as an example of this. Right? So there's a feast of the booth, there is a feast of the Passover, there is unleavened bread, that's another kind of feast, and there will be sin offering. Now, how is it that we are going to be practicing sin offering and burnt offering to Yahweh? How is it? I thought all those practices were part of the Mosaic covenant, and all of those were foreshadowing. They were a type of what is to come, which is Jesus Christ. And because Jesus came, his sin offering is perfect. How is it that those rituals are going to be practiced one more time?
I give it a go. I think I remember sort of vaguely. Because Jesus is now on earth ruling, and there's still people being born and so on, so that they have that understanding that sin still requires punishment,
Death
that
and-
there's still death
Yeah.
to be paid.
Think of those practices. Think you're a Christian, you died, you rose again, you've got the glorified body, and then let's just say you go to the temple and then have a look at these rituals. You just observe those rituals, and what do you see? What do you remember? You remember what happened in the past. They're not foreshadowing something's going to happen in the future. You remember what happened in the past. Just like that bull is slaughtered, so also Jesus was slaughtered. Just as this offering is being offered to God, so also was Jesus offered to God. In other words, think of those rituals as the two rituals that we are commanded by God in this age that we are practicing. What are the two rituals that we're commanded by God to practice? Exactly. Baptism and communion. They are not salvific in and of themselves, meaning they don't justify anybody. They're not commanded so that you have to keep them in order for you to be saved. That's what I mean. It's not that, right? But they are a way to remember what Jesus has done on the cross. And so also in that age, no, in this present, in that age, there seems to be other certain of practices that help us to remember what Jesus has done.
Is this what you're saying? Is this just based on sort of like logic? Because when we look at communion, we have specific instructions that Jesus even said, do this in memory of me. With all this that you're saying, is this just you sharing kind of the logic of why? I mean, it's there. We know it's in there. Yeah. But the purpose that it's being done. So yes. Where do you get that from?
That's a very good question. I think it's by process of deduction. So in other words, why is it that those rituals were abolished? Because the Mosaic covenant was abolished. It's the Mosaic covenant that we're no longer bound to. Right? And because that Mosaic covenant is abolished, so also everything that comes with it was abolished. But even though the 10 Commandments were an integral part of the Mosaic covenant, and even though the Mosaic covenant was abolished, but we still retain those things because they all point to who God is. So we still keep them, the moral law. All right? So in a similar way, the Mosaic covenant and everything is abolished. We accept that, right? There's now a new covenant, a better covenant. But in the future, there's going to be sin offering. Well, why? If the Mosaic covenant has been abolished, what do we do sin offering in a new age to come? Well, I think the only possible logical reason is to remember what he's done, not for the future, to practice something that Jesus will do in the future, something going to happen in the future. That's what I think. But good question, though. Very good question.
We don't do that now. So if that was the reason, why don't we do it now so we can remember what he has done? Because
that's a good question, too. Because we follow the regulative principle. Remember that? Regulative principle? If God commands us, whatever God commands us in this age, we obey. We don't go outside of what he commands us within this age, right? And so we are not commanded to do such thing. It's not given to us. So their future prophecies are indicative here. They're not prescriptive.
Sorry, and specifically though, with the communion, just with that, don't we read that we'll no longer do bread and cup there, because Jesus, it says in there, remember, do this in remembrance of me until, it specifically says until he returns, or something like that, isn't it?
But he did say, I will not eat of this until I come back. So we are anticipating that he will celebrate with us that practice.
Right.
Yes.
like when I see something like that, and I just see the time that we're in at the moment, I just couldn't see anybody sacrificing animals in this generation or anything like that. So when this is all happening, this is obviously in the 1,000-year reign,
Yes.
So would it have to be at a point that people would have to be, I don't know, looking after themselves and killing their own animals or something? Like there obviously
so
has to have something's happened.
In every age, there is a particular way that God prescribes to us to worship, right? You've got the Old Testament. There is a particular way that God prescribed for Him, how He wants us to worship Him. And there is a New Testament age, which is this current age, how God prescribes to us how He wants to be worshipped. So for example, just an example, in the Old Testament, well, there is circumcision for men. There are some sin offering and all the rest of it. In the New Testament, how He wants to worship is both Jews and Gentiles to be gathered in local churches. That's one thing. They're going to have baptism and communion. That's how He wants to be worshipped. So we see within the context of that dispensation of time how God ordained for us to worship Him, and we obey that command. So those prophecies here obviously it tells you that's in the future sense, that there will be a time that will come where He will want to be worshipped this way. So we only follow the commands of how we worship God as per that dispensation that we're in.
Does it say where they'll get the information on how to do that? Because like we've got the Bible, and we have all that information. Where would they get? Or is God going to speak to them?
In Mount Zion, there's going to be. We know a few things are going to happen in Mount Zion. So there's going to be a temple, but what else is going to be there? Exactly, the throne of Jesus Christ. The Davidic king will sit on his throne for that 1,000 years in the very same place where the temple will be established. So, again, and that's why when we say we're cessationist, I trust that many of you know what that word means. Okay, there's not going to be. We believe that the gift of prophecy has ceased. A gift of word of knowledge has ceased, and a gift of revelation has ceased. There are many gifts that have ceased now, right? Meaning God only speaks through His scriptures at the moment, right? But there will, in that age to come, Jesus will be sitting there, and every word that He will utter is God's word. It's a whole different dispensation. So we only know what the scripture tells us, what will happen at that time. We can't go beyond that. Yeah. All right. So, temple in Mount Zion, where the throne of Jesus will be established, and in that temple, there are certain practices that will be performed, similar to those that are in the Old Testament, but with different meanings. For sure, there's no doubt. Now we'll come to something else, which is pretty interesting. Ezekiel 47. And I think another aspect that we need to know regarding the Millennium Kingdom is a huge. I'm just picking the significant aspects of the Millennium Kingdom, right? So we spoke about the animal kingdom and how it's going to have peace within itself, and animal kingdom with the human kingdom, and how human will interact, and there will be peace, maybe not authority as much as there will be in the eternal state, but there will be at least peace, right? This is important now. I think that's another important element, which is the healing, right? Now, Ezekiel is saying here, then he brought me back to the door of the house this house here is really the temple. It's another way of saying the temple, right? Or the Holy of Holies, or the sanctuary. And behold, water was flowing from under the threshold of the house. What's the threshold? Bottom of the door, all right? Just the foundation, right? Good. Toward the east. So the water will come down from the temple towards the east. So that's the direction of the water. For the house faced east. And the water was flowing down from under. Is it small? Can't tell you, come and sit at the front. Anyway. And the water was flowing from under. You can follow me in your Bible. Do you want to open your Bible and see? I mean, it's up to you if you want to see through here or your script, your own word. It's in verse 1. From the right side of the house, from south of the altar. All right. Anyway, let's just continue. I don't need to elaborate much on that one. He brought me out by, well, so basically you've got the sanctuary, which is the temple. The altar is on the south, right? Maybe should I draw it for you? I'm really terrible at drawing, so the altar. So the water, basically what it's saying is it's coming out of the south. It's coming out of the altar. It's supernatural. And he brought me out by the way of the north gate and led me around on the outside to the outer gate. There is inner gate and outer gate. So now he's going outer gate by way of the gate that faces east. Remember, the water's heading where? East. It's heading east, right? Toward east, right? And behold, water was trickling from the south side. So south side is the altar, where the altar is in the temple. When the man went out toward the east, remember, toward the east, that's where the water is coming from. Towards, where's towards the east? Somewhere in there. All right, anyway. With the line in his hand, and he measured 1,000 cubits, that's about 500 meters. And he led me through the water reaching the ankles. I'm going to read it, try to explain it, but then I'll summarize it to you. Again, he measured 1,000 cubits, so another 500 meters, and led me through the water reaching the knees. So first, the ankle, then 500 meters later, and there's knees. Again, he measured 1,000 and led me through the water reaching the loins. What's the loins? Yeah. Waist, just about there. All right. Again, so where am I? Yeah, loins. Again, he measured 1,000, and it was a river that I could not ford, for the water had risen, enough water to swim in, a river that could not be forded. In other words, the water was so deep that now he has to do what? He has to swim. All right. And he measured 1,000, and it was a river that I could not ford, for the water had risen. I read this. And he said to me, Son of man, have you seen this? Then he brought me back to the bank of the river. Now when I had returned, behold, on the bank of the river, there were very many trees on one side and the other. Then he said to me, these waters go out toward the eastern region, again toward the eastern region, and go down into the Arabah. Then they go toward the sea, being made to flow into the sea, and the waters of the sea become what? Fresh. It will come about that every living creature which swarms in every place where the river goes will live. And there will be very many fish, for these waters go there and the others become fresh, so everything will live where the river goes. And it will come about that fishermen will stand beside it from Engedi to Engelim. When I researched what this means, basically the sea coast of the Dead Sea, there will be a place for the spreading of the nets. Their fish will be according to their kinds, like the fish of the Great Sea. What's the Great Sea, by the way? That's the name that they gave to the Mediterranean Sea, right? So in other words, the fish in the Great Mediterranean Sea, what sort of fish are they? Salty fish. They can only live in salty water. Just like them, there will be fish swimming in what sort of water? Fresh water, right? But its swamps and marshes will not become fresh. They will be left for salt. Don't worry, I'm going to explain all that. Just give me a second. By the river on its bank, on one side and on the other, will grow all kinds of trees for food. Their leaves will not wither and their fruit will not fail. Does that remind you of anything? Psalm 1? Yeah, the righteous person? They will bear every month because their water flows from the sanctuary. And their fruit will be for food and the leaves for healing. Number one, because of the very specific information here, even the measurements. He gives you the measurements. He tells you how long and all the description all around it. You have to go by the plain reading of the text. You must look at the plain reading of the text. Now, but I want to say something so I can help you understand, so that you don't go to the other extreme. Suppose Ezekiel has gone forward to the future and he's seen Mr. David Jones or David Meyer or one of these massive buildings. He goes and he says, I see him cutting a red rope or red tape, and everybody celebrating and clapping. Is he allegorizing? No. If he saw that in the future, he actually saw a red tape and it's being cut, the red tape, right? But does that mean it doesn't symbolize something? Of course not. We know what the red tape means. We know when people clapping what that means. It's celebration of the grand opening of something of some sort, right? So we read the plain reading of the text. This will happen because God said it's going to happen. All right, but we know there are a lot more deeper meaning than this. Again, if Ezekiel has come and went and he's gone and saw the sky towers, and then he says in New York there were massive sky towers, and there's long ones, high ones, wide ones. Is he allegorizing? He wouldn't be allegorizing. You can't say, what he's saying is America will be superpower, powerhouse of the world. There would be literal building, very high building. But also, in addition to that, we know that those buildings point to the fact that America, that at that point in time, was powerful. I'm looking here at the plain reading of the text. What is Ezekiel saying is going to happen? You have a temple elevated. Another passage in Scripture is going to be elevated, one of the highest mountains in the world, and it's going to be a supernatural work of Christ when he comes down on earth. As he splits Mount Zion, he will elevate that splits Mount Olives. He elevates Mount Zion. The temple is established. He sits on the throne, but that's not all in terms of the supernatural work. to say from that sanctuary, from that south, where the altar is, in other words, where the Holy of Holies, if you like, this is the place, the presence of God, and then it begins to trickle, and then it trickles for 500 meters, and then all of a sudden it reaches what? The ankle, and then after that it reaches the knees, and after that the waist, and after that 500 meters later, and you can't even swim in it. This is a supernatural water. I mean, how do you get that much water? And then not only that, but that water somehow will find its way through the rivers into the ocean water. Right now, the ocean water is poisonous for human, right? Poison, you can't drink it. If you drink it because you're thirsty, you only can drink much and then it's going to kill you. It's poisonous. And what's Ezekiel saying here? The water that we swim in, the ocean water, the sea water that is salty, which is poisonous to us, is going to be drowned by fresh water that is coming from the sanctuary, from where Christ is seated. And it will permeate, and it will go over the sea. And if it goes over the Mediterranean Sea and the Dead Sea and all the other seas, then the water all of a sudden everywhere during that 1,000 years is going to be fresh water. And not just fresh water coming from the cloud. Where is this water coming from? No better place than the sanctuary. At that fountain of living waters, we take it as illustration, as a figure of speech, but it is actually drawn out of something real. Jesus is the fountain, figuratively speaking, but he is also going to offer this living water, if you like. What does it mean, living water? It will bring life. It will bring every fish that will be swimming in this water will be alive. And not only that, there will be the trees on the side of that river, that main river, they're going to be healthy, they're going to be flourishing, and their leaves are going to be what? For healing. You looking for herbs? You conspiracy theorists?
Brother,
you won't be conspiracy theorists when it comes to the Millennium Kingdom, okay? These are the herbs that all the cancer patients are looking for, all right? They're found there in the Millennium Kingdom.
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
You said that the fish will be alive. Were they dead before, or? Because you said once that water goes into that water, the fish will be alive. Like, were they dead before, or?
I would say it brings health.
So the fish will be healthier. No, it was a literal question what I was asking.
Yeah.
But what did you mean?
No, they weren't dead and then they become alive. I don't think it's, otherwise I would have said resurrected. But I think what it means here is because anything that this water touches in terms of fish creatures, sea creatures, they're going to experience the health that will come out of the beautiful water that is coming out of the sanctuary. There's not so much a resurrection of animals. I don't think there will be a resurrection for animals, because animals don't have the souls that we have. But it would be potent that will give them life, meaning that they won't die from, hey? Yeah, they won't die from poison. It's not poisonous. It's healthy. Yeah, that's right. They won't die from parasite. But yet, at the same time, there will be swamps. Where do we read this? There will be swamps, and marshes will not become fresh. They will be left for salt. In other words, any isolated water, because it's not obviously the water that comes from the sanctuary, all this puddles of water, if you like, these lakes, are disconnected from the fresh water that coming from the sanctuary, they will remain as they are. In other words, the life that will come, or the refreshing and the restoration that will come in pools of water, in the bodies of water, are really ascribed to the water that is coming from the sanctuary. That's the point here. Now, does it have meaning, deeper meaning behind this? Spiritual meaning behind it? There's no doubt. There's no doubt. All right? You can even imagine when you're standing there and you're beholding this, like it's just say, the Lord in his providence teleported you and you looked at it and you go, here's the sanctuary, and I can see through my drone, or you're kind of hovering, an angel picks you up and you're having a look and you see the water trickling and you see it's thin water and it goes a bit deeper and then a bit deeper to your waist level, and all of a sudden so much water that you have to swim, and it's affecting everything. You're looking, you're tracing back where it all come from. Oh, sanctuary. Oh, how powerful is this king? How powerful is this king sitting on the throne, in order for that blessing that comes out of him affects all creation.
Well, if we trust and know that Jesus could turn loaves and fish to feed 25,000, that had to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
So, the water's going to be...
we're dealing with the King of Kings, the creator of the universe, and he's seated on his throne. It's totally it's a different game altogether. And you can just imagine, when will Jesus establish his throne? When will Jesus establish his throne? When is it the first time that the scripture tells us that he will be seated on his throne? At the beginning of the Millennium Kingdom, right? Remember, we're going through this passage. So when will this begin to be established? At the beginning of the Millennium Kingdom. Yeah, have a look. In Zechariah 14 and verse 8. Here we go again. In that day, living waters will flow out of Jerusalem, half of them toward the eastern sea and the other half toward the western sea. The eastern sea is the Dead Sea. The other half toward the western sea. The western sea is again another way of saying the Mediterranean Sea. That's the sea on the west of Jerusalem. And it will be summer as well as in winter. It will be in summer as well as in winter. From Jerusalem, and it will go both directions. And I think, of course, by implication, that water, that fresh water that is coming from the sanctuary, from where Jesus is, I think, imagine when he goes all the way to the pipes, to your tap, and then you, even if you have unglorified body, and then you drink this water. I mean, of course, the leaves have the healing, but I cannot say, well, that water is only H2O and it has no power in it for human. It only has power over the fish. Well, obviously, the scripture does say, if the leaves are for the healing, but I'm sure, I can't help but to think, well, if the water that produces healing leaves and the water that helps fish to live would be a water that would be very helpful for us. It will be for free. Yeah. Yeah, that's the water you can drink. That's the only water that is available now that you can drink. But you can drink it from anywhere. You can go for a swim in the Mediterranean Sea or Red Sea or whatever, and then you just drink it up, Good water. Any other question? All right. So the aspect, and then this time, brother, don't tell me you don't like to go to the sea, right? That would be a good time to go to the sea, right? Yeah? All right. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to swimming in this water. All right. Finally, last bit. Last bit of the millennium. Now we come to the very, very end of the millennium kingdom. Very end. So here we are in Revelation chapter 20. It's the last bit and we're done. All right. So we had fun and we've enjoyed this millennium kingdom for the 1,000 years. We drank from the water. We ate from the leaves and beautiful and best spices ever. And there is peace, there is prosperity, and the Christians with glorified bodies are ruling, they're reigning with Christ, and they're ensuring law and order is maintained. Beautiful stuff. Satan, where is Satan all this time, and him and his demons? They're bound, they're locked up in prison for the 1,000 years. Now, coming to the end of it, this is going to happen. When the 1,000 years are completed, all right, this phase in the redemptive history has come to an end. Satan will be released. Will be, by the way, that means it's not that he broke out of prison on his own. Will be someone else more powerful than him released him from his prison. I love just the plain reading of the text, brothers. It's just, it's easy to follow. We don't have to make up stuff. So he's released from the prison and will come out to deceive the nations. Which are in the four corners of the earth. Gog and Magog. Gog basically there's some sort of a leader, going back to Ezekiel, and Magog is the land where he's coming from. So land here basically, well, I don't know. I mean, it's after the 1,000 years, who knows? To gather them who? Whoever he is deceiving. To gather them. So it's Satan will come out to deceive the nations, to gather them, the nations, together for the war. How many people? The number of them is like the sand of the sea. And by the way, it says here, for the war. It's like an anticipated war. It's the war, the mother of all wars, the great war, right? And their number, who's there? The nations, okay? Like the sand of the seashore, and they came up on the broad plain of the land, of the earth, and surrounded the camp of the saints. So somehow the saints at that time, after the 1,000 years, will be grouped together. And a beloved city, what's the beloved city? Jerusalem. So it seems to me that it's one of the feasts where we are commanded to go and celebrate. It's very clear in other books in the Bible that there is a feast. Again, we said it before, the feast of the booth, where God will command, Jesus will command all nations to go up and to worship him. So there's a time in a year where you are expecting all nations to go and worship Jesus. So there is a time when the saints will be camped in a beloved city, which is Jerusalem. So now what do you have? You have Jesus and you have all the saints, I mean all those who worship him in one hand, and then you have all the nations that are deceived by Satan. So it implies believers, and here you have unbelievers, and the unbelievers will, by being deceived by Satan, will go after the 1,000 years, will ambush him or make a siege, and then in response to this, what will happen? Fire came down from heaven and devoured them. Devoured the nations, the unbelievers. And then at that point, the devil who deceived them, that's Satan, was thrown into the lake of fire and brimstone. You remember? Lake of fire. Who's in the lake of fire at that point in time? Where the beast and the false prophet, the Antichrist and the false prophet are also there. These are the only ones who, at the point of Jesus' return, are in the lake of fire. And they are in language there for 1,000 years. Everybody else, all unbelievers, where are they? In Sheol, in Hades, okay, in hell. All right. And they will become tormented day and night forever and ever. Where are they going to be tormented day and night? In the lake of fire. Crazy, right? How is it that you have 1,000 years where Jesus ensures prosperity and laws are compliant and enforced by all these Christians with glorified bodies who never die? And yet after 1,000 years, all those nations would rise up simply because Satan at the very end of the 1,000 years would deceive them, and then they rise up and they think that they can overthrow Jesus and then kill the saints. How does that work? And then it's not like 5 or 6, the sand of the seashore. So many of them. So many of them. How does that work? Where did they come from? Where did they come from? I thought the people who entered the Millennium Kingdom, according to what we saw last week, were saved Christians. Where did these unbelievers come from? Hey? They're offsprings. How is it? Yep.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Regarding this, Yanni. You know how Satan was going to deceive the nations, and the people that are deceived inevitably are unbelievers. When it says the nations, is it also including the leaders of those nations?
What do we think?
Well, I would think yes. But I thought that the people that rule are the ones that have been raptured.
We don't know how Jesus will establish the law and order. Will Jesus have terms, give them terms so people alternate? Would he do that? Well, I mean, we don't know. Again, and we don't really know if the leaders of the nations are present or they overthrew their own leaders and then raised for themselves their own leaders. I mean, we don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that every single leader, but it seems like to have such an organized structure, there's got to be some leaders that would attempt to go and overthrow Jesus.
So obviously these people are very rebellious.
Well,
but
obviously.
It's only after they have been deceived by Satan. So prior to that, you'd think that they're like...
Well, I would say, and for good reasons, I think, that they were already rebellious in their own hearts. But they couldn't express this because they were, of course, they would be scared of the consequences if they would violate God's law. You know, they probably, before then, they were already raging in their heart because they can't do what they want to do. We're going back to Psalm 2. Why are those peoples raging and angry with God and his Messiah? Why?
Oh, hold on.
Yep.
Where it says surrounded the camp of the saints, I just wanted to ask, with the saints, obviously it's those who have been saved during the millennium, but then also the glorified ones, right?
Yeah.
So if they would war against the saints, and some of them are, we are glorified. How do you kill a glorified body? You
Well, how do you kill
right?
Jesus?
Yeah. Okay.
You know, I mean, that's
So we would rise then again?
That's the crux of deception, right?
Okay.
I mean, if Satan would deceive, in other words, he would bring illusion that is contrary to reality.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Give it to John.
And it just shows you the power of that deception and that strong desire in the heart of the unbelievers to accept that lie. Yeah.
So just a quick side question, since we're on this subject of kind of deception and whatnot. So what's the tone of the 1,000 years going to be like when it comes to sin? Because it seems that there's going to be sin in the presence of unbelievers.
Yeah.
But for the glorified body believers, are they just going to be like Jesus, where temptation might be present, but we just don't give into it? Is that what you're saying? Like, we're going to be immune to sin? We'll be immune to sin and temptation, because like Jesus.
We are going to have redeemed flesh.
Yeah, but the atmosphere will still be one where sin is present. We're just not going to fall into it.
No way. We would be totally insusceptible, if you like. Incapable
of sinning. Correct. Okay, great. Just wanted to...
It's not that we will be able not to sin, it's that we are not able to sin.
Okay. Just...
Yeah. And it's interesting because, you know, you get people say, oh, how is it? Like, you know, they're under Jesus Christ and all the teaching and all the preaching and the glorified body and the observation of all these miracles. How is it that you have so many people, so many unbelievers? In fact, it seems to me that's the dividing line between believers and unbelievers again here, right? How is that possible? How is it possible? What do you think? Right? It's amazing that the depravity of a man, if he's not a Christian, how terrible that heart. But it's more than just that. I believe it's more than that. Because up to this point, I am addressing you as believers, and you're receiving this truth about prosperity and peace and safety and nothing to be troubled about, and gives you opportunity to expand and enjoy life. You take this as such a great blessing, and it is a blessing. But when that blessing is received by a depraved heart, it becomes a curse. It becomes a curse, right? We need to understand this. You know, in a developed countries, there are a lot more chances to kind of feel, man, I feel so independent. What do you mean? You feel you're so independent? You need Christ, man. Oh, no, I feel, you don't understand. How come you feel independent? I am healthy, I have good food, organic food, I am rich, I have prosperity. Therefore, because I am prosperous, generally speaking, as an unbeliever, because I am prosperous, I don't take drugs, I don't take alcohol, because of course in the Millennium Kingdom all this stuff will be forbidden. If you get drunk, if you have drugs and all this stuff, right? So I'm healthy, I don't take drugs, I don't do this, I don't do that. Why do I need Jesus? And the prosperity, it seems to me, rather than received as a blessing, which will be for believers, it would be a curse for unbelievers. Such that it seems to me, even though they spend so long under mighty Jesus, King on the earth, and he claims the entire globe to be his kingdom, and the supernatural activities that would take place at that time, it is not hard to trace back that water to find its origin in his throne. And yet, because that prosperity is received by a depraved heart, they say, I'm going to reject you. Once again, I receive your blessings, but I reject you, the blesser. Yeah. And that desire, because it's fed by that prosperity, only increases. All it needs is the release of Satan for just a short time to deceive them. And they say, we're buying that lie. We're buying that deception. Let's go after him. Let's go after Jesus and all the saints. Do you get that? So it is reconcilable. It's not hard to figure out. I mean, we live in that era. There's a sense where, okay, Australia is kind of developed and it seems like, only when, even us as believers, when everything is sorted, unless I am just so watching and so guarding my own heart and I'm going back for Christ and I need him and I make this conscious decision, if it's not the brokenness of our lives, there's a sense where we don't sense our dependency on him. You know what I'm saying? And there is a sense where we also, even as believers, when we have our unredeemed flesh, there's a strong tendency to ignore Christ and live in the flesh. But multiply that by 10,000 times more, and that's what you get here with the unbelievers in the Millennium Kingdom. Anything else? Yeah?
There were believers and unbelievers, so which means the offspring of those, who they haven't experienced, death, who entered into the Millennial Kingdom. Okay, I just wondering how their children, offsprings, get saved during the Millennium.
How do they get saved?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, same way as anyone gets saved even now.
Yeah. So they're gonna hear the gospel. They're gonna join the worship. Bring by their parents.
Yeah.
And then once they get saved, what's gonna happen to them? I mean, their body.
They still have their unredeemed body until the end of the Millennium Kingdom, and then they will receive the glorified body.
At the end, very end.
Yeah.
Okay, so they just become a believer. Okay.
And so because they have unglorified body, they're able to breed. They're able to populate the earth, and that's where we get their number is like the seashore because people breed and give birth and all that.
Okay.
All right. We're done with the Millennium Kingdom. We are going to go, well, since we finished with Revelation 20, we'll move on to the Great White Throne. And we want to understand it's not a sermon, but it's more of a teaching what is going on, again, as part of end time. Then we'll go back to the rapture. Right? Let's enjoy this. Let's enjoy this. There is a time where Jesus will win, and we will enjoy his presence for that 1,000 years.